Can you hear the raven? And this is Callista, a new member of the family. Callie the Mally, the most beautiful one, who's waiting for a ball to be thrown, which I shall do now. It's been, what do they say, a hot minute? It's been a long time since I've done one of these videos. And the reason that I decided that I wanted to do this video today was to talk about change and how someone who is occasionally suicidal and depressed deals with negative change. So for my 56th birthday present, I will be carrying on playing ball with my dog whilst we have this chat. My 56th birthday present last year, on my birthday, I was diagnosed type 1 diabetic. Irony of ironies. Someone who basically hasn't wanted to be alive for a very long time and has tried to commit suicide several times ends up with a condition where I have to inject about 5 times a day in order to stay alive, and it means I've got enough medication in my house to put myself into a coma and do away with myself. In the fridge at all times. How am I adjusting to this? I think quite well. Some of the depressive patterns have come back, self-isolation, some suicidal thoughts and intentions. But I think I'm getting on top of it. Callie helps. Anything positive in your life helps, especially if it constantly wants your attention and gives you love and attention. But mainly, obviously, it has to come from within me to deal with this. So it's early days. Some of the patterns of behaviour and maintenance routines that I had haven't been, I won't say they haven't been strong enough to deal with this, because the fact that I'm feeling this way isn't really a great surprise. Initially I was very laissez-faire about the diagnosis and just said, yeah, it's just one of those things, I can deal with it. I'm not unfamiliar with type 1 diabetes because there's been 2 members of my family that have had it and lived with it. And then I was in a course for diabetics to teach us how to control it better and understand what we were doing with the insulin and food intake, etc. And they asked us how we felt, and I realised that I was profoundly angry. I'd spent 18 years trying to manage my mental health issues in ways that would enable me to get off medication and to be free of medication and able to get on with my life with as little disruption as possible from my condition. And then all of a sudden, literally overnight, I've got a suitcase full of drugs that I have to take every day, all the paraphernalia. I've got to have a sensor on my arm all the time, which is much better than having to take blood tests all the time. I've got to inject myself 5 times a day. My body doesn't like being injected, so I'm covered in bruises, and there's various other medical conditions related to diabetes that are pretty gruesome that I don't want to go into here right now. It's not necessary. So I don't think it's surprising that I was so angry. Then once I was honest about the fact that I was angry and explored that, allowed myself to feel it, that led on to a recognition that it actually was causing a recurrence of my depressive behaviours. I mean, the manic depression is always there. I have periods of manic and depressed behaviours all the time, but they were under control. They were being managed by my lifestyle and the psychological training that I've undertaken over sort of nearly 2 decades. And this one definitely put a wobbler on it. And I'm still in the middle of it. But I'm being kind to myself. When I need to isolate, I isolate. When I feel that I'm being overly self-indulgent in self-isolating and that it might be detrimental to other people around me if I don't join in, I make the attempt to join in, and if I can't, I remove myself as graciously as possible. So my activity levels are down. I'm aware that I need to increase them in ways that are kind to myself, but actually do challenge that tendency just to hibernate, self-isolate, do as little as possible. That doesn't help. So I'm setting myself little tasks, just the same way I got out of the deep depression the first time after the last suicide attempt. It's just setting myself little tasks, not berating myself if I don't do them, but praising myself when I do. However small the task, it could be just getting the housework done one day. Another day it might be cutting the hedge. You know, some of the dangers are back, so the more depressed you are, the more distracted you tend to be. So I can't cook really now without Colette being around, because I do things like leave ovens on, leave rings on, and then put things on top of them without realising they're on. I nearly burnt the house down a couple of times in the last few months. There's been a few charred things in the oven. You've got to be a bit sensible, obviously, not use machinery when you're aware that you're not on top form. So I'm not back at square one, although I was not back quite far. I was actively suicidal for a period of time, and I'm aware that that's still there in the background. So humility time of acknowledging that, you know, this has knocked me back in the control of my mental health, and putting back in some of the baby steps, the little sort of routines. It sounds daft, but making sure that I maintain my personal hygiene, which is something that can go out the window for those people that are properly depressed. Mania isn't a huge problem at the moment because I'm largely struggling with depression, but the flip side of that is that manic behaviour happens at times, and again, my little coping mechanisms for that, which is to go and do things that use the energy but have limited opportunity for risk. So get out and walk the dog, try and make sure Colette's aware that I'm a bit manic, so that she monitors what I'm doing, because when I'm manic I do things like rip out the whole of the kitchen, or pull a bathroom to pieces, or if I had the machinery to do it, I could knock the house down with the idea that I'm going to rebuild it. It's that insane. There's a reason why mixed affective disorder has the letters MAD as the designation. Anyway, don't know the point of this little ramble really, other than to acknowledge to myself that I am in some ways back where I started shortly after my last suicide attempt, dealing with some of the similar issues, and to iterate to myself that the humility to step back into those very basic routines that helped me build up a more healthy mindset and approach to living are necessary again, and to congratulate myself on recognizing that and for starting to do it. So it's a very self-indulgent personal ramble, just to help me recognize where I am and to acknowledge myself for having the strength and humility to admit where I am and to put in place the necessary routines and behavioural modifications that are necessary to keep myself and my loved ones safe. Okay, with that I will say goodbye to Callie, and I'll see you again, no doubt. Bye.